Okay, hi Mikayla. First of all, apologies. This draft, as I said, slipped through my net, and I think I got myself a little bit mixed up with the Lanas as well. So apologies for not getting back to you before. Obviously, I'll give you a clear extension on this. You've clearly got another week to fix it up. Get back to me. Let me know anything else that you need a hand with. Look, there's a lot of strengths about this. I think you're really on track with it. I've just given you a bit of feedback. Some of it is semantics, words like correlation. You just shouldn't use them in scientific and particularly psychological reports, because correlation is a particular statistic that we use, and you're not using that statistic in this report. So just be a little bit more general. And just say that you're just trying to see if there's a difference in the recall ability between the musical participants and the non-musical participants. This is really good. I like how you've described the sample size. You've included something here about the familiarity, and I think that was the original hypothesis, and then we kind of decided not to include the familiar groups because it was getting things a bit confused, so just get rid of that statement. When you talk about step size, I think you need to just give a little bit of an explanation saying this is different, size chunks of information, because it's the first time the reader has come across this term and they might not know what it means. This is a bit repetitive, this one here, so just get rid of that statement. Yep, this is all very clear. Your hypotheses are fine. This is a sort of repetition of what you said before, but you haven't talked about the fact that you've included a table of descriptive statistics, so just put that in place there. Now, I was said to delete this and replace it with the subheading results, but even before this, I just want you to insert, let me just see if I can quickly just highlight and put a little note here. So just insert a statement about the method, which is basically that you followed, so the investigation followed the SACE board research program method for, what was this called? Learning. I think it was learning one, yeah. For learning. So, and then that way you've just referenced the method, and yeah, we've covered that point. Okay, I love the way that these graphs are presented. Mikayla, I think they are labeled perfectly. You have got the axes in them correctly. They've got identical ranges there. So these are two really nice graphs. And the other thing that I really like about them is how similar they are. I think you've got a really strong piece of information, which is that there is really no difference between the groups. There's a slightly higher score here, but really you've got exactly the same pattern happening in both graphs, and you've got virtually identical scores happening in both graphs. And I think that's really powerful, because what you can see here is that there really is no difference between recall between the participants in this study who had musical training and the participants who didn't have musical training. So well done in creating these graphs, they look great. Just a little bit of semantics there, delete that in, it doesn't make sense. Now, why have I highlighted that 2.7? Yeah, basically what I've said is I just want an overall description. You've just given me numbers, and I just want you to be really clear about the fact that you have got this very obvious pattern here, and just give an overall description of the general trend in data at the end there. That will finish off those results really lovely. Table 1 needs a title just like your graphs do, so give it a little title. I like the way that this table's laid out. It's very clear and easy to read. I like the fact that you have identified the number of participants in each group. Instead of saying all variables, I think you'd be better off just saying the dependent variable, which is the recall time. Because there is, you know, that's what you're talking about is the recall time. You're not talking about any of the independent variable, because there was only 2 groups, which was musical training, not musical training. So just clarify that. Again, that little word correlation sneaked in, so get rid of it. What's this one here? Which had been first hypothesized. Yeah, just restate the fact that you've got basically identical groups. And here I kind of disagreed with you, I think. You've said there is so pattern. I'm assuming that you meant no pattern to be seen amongst the groups. Well, I disagree. You've got a very strong pattern, which is that both groups are almost identical. So I think that's a strong pattern that needs to be highlighted. Yeah, so the fact that you've got the little dip here, I think that's worth discussing in the results section. So why did the smallest chunk of information have such a high average? Because you would expect that average to be down here somewhere. And the same with here, you would expect the step 3 recall time to be a lot lower. Certainly step size 5 and 7 show that upward trend, which we would expect, but that step size 3 kind of threw the results off a little bit. And I think that's worth discussing in the when we're looking at some of the strengths and weaknesses of the study. So when you need to remember when you did that experiment, what was it like for you when you were having to recall those lyrics, particularly at the beginning? You know, you were going through that PowerPoint and you had to, like, there was different colors telling you where to start, and I think it was all a little bit confusing. And so, yeah, for me, that was a real weakness of the study, was that really at the beginning, nobody had a clue what they were doing. And it may be that there was confusion amongst the instructions and what you were meant to be doing, which caused this increase in time. It might not be, but it might be. And by the time that you got to step size 5, people knew what they were doing. Step size 7, that's a bigger piece of information, so you would expect it to take longer to recall 7 syllables of information as opposed to 3 syllables, so you would expect that increased size. I could be completely wrong. And I'm just second guessing myself here. Did you have like 3 different trials of step size 3? So you went step size 3, 5, 7, and then you went back to 3, 5, 7, back to 3, 5, 7, and then if that's the case, that is a complete load of garbage. I've just told you about why step size 3 might be higher. It might be that's too small a piece of information to recall, you know, only saying 3 syllables, using the measure we use. So you know how we use the timer. Was that the most accurate way to measure recall? You know, because there was another person, we had to bring another person's reaction times into that. Would it have been better to actually have had the person being digitally recorded when they spoke and recalled it, and then we could be a bit more accurate? I don't know. So these are the kind of things that you've got to really criticize the study and say, well, this is a weakness of the study, this is the strength of the study. Talk about the type of research design that we did, whether, you know, what strengths and weaknesses the research design did. And with the weaknesses, you know, if you were to redo the study, how would you do it? Really, really important that you bring in reliability and validity here. Okay, so how reliable was the data? If you were to redo it, would you get the same data again? And this is where you can talk about the sample size being very small. And you can talk about validity as well. The validity is, did we actually measure what we thought we measured? So when we were measuring recall time, were we measuring recall time? Were we measuring reaction time? Were we measuring something completely different? So this is what you've got to do next. So you are really on track. It's looking great. My sincere apologies again for the delay. And yeah, good luck. Feel free to send me another draft during the week if you want me to have a look at it again before you submit the final one. Okay? All right. Good luck, Mikayla. See ya.